scholarships or grants?
Mr. Speaker, I would answer the gentlewoman, since she didn't appear to understand my answer previously, that of course that is correct. That is the whole point, that religious institutions have these deeply held religious beliefs, that they do mean something to these religious institutions, just as has been contemplated throughout our history, that we respect those beliefs. And yes, indeed, as I used the example on the floor previously, we have tuition assistance grants that go to places like Liberty University. Liberty University is very clear about things like its housing policy, that they do not allow certain circumstances to exist in their housing policy. And so I don't see how I can be any more crystal clear about what this bill is seeking to accomplish, other than trying to protect those institutions and their deeply held beliefs from being penalized by the government for holding them.
I thank the gentleman for the clarity.
The gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Simon.
Mr. Speaker, speaking to the bill. Speaking to the bill.
The gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, this is the problem with the bill. The problem with the bill is as the gentleman from Shenandoah just admitted, this is about protecting one specific religious belief. All right? And I understand why you had to do that, and I understand why this bill got narrower. You know, this is sort of a mashup of the bill we had in the House before. We kind of moved it around. We called it, a definition of a penalty, and then said you can't do a penalty instead of saying you can't do all these things. But it's basically the same bill. We just rearranged it and we did it a little bit differently. And we took out the stuff about premarital sex and things like that, so that we really got it down to just one specific religious belief. And the problem with that is a form of establishment, right? We are establishing a state religion. We are saying that we're going to prefer this specific set of beliefs above all others. We're not going to give this same protection to people that believe, for instance, that people of the same sex can marry, right? My rabbi does marriages between same-sex couples. There's no protection for that, right? There are all kinds of religious beliefs we could choose to protect. But when we say there's one specific religious belief that is so much more important than any other person's religious belief that we're going to give it specific protection, that is a violation of the Establishment Clause. You can't do that. And I don't want to quote the case law here to the body, but that's the real problem with this. And the reason you guys had to narrow this is because, look, nobody's saying that any pastor should have to marry anybody they don't want to, right? That's never been the case. There are Catholic priests that won't marry people that are divorced. There are rabbis that won't marry people that are interfaith couples. There are people that won't marry people after sundown on Friday nights. And nobody's ever tried to make those people marry anybody they didn't want to. But you had to narrow this because if you got any broader, you'd find that there are sincerely held religious beliefs that have been used as the basis for all kinds of discrimination in the past. People sincerely believe that people of the different races shouldn't be allowed to marry. So you had to get in here and you had to narrow it. You had to say, well, we don't mean that. We only mean if they believe that marriage is between one man and one woman. That's the specific belief that we're going to try and protect here. And that is unfortunately the flaw with the bill. And that creates an establishment problem, and I would urge the body to please, please, please not pass this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman Prince William, Mr. Marshall.
Mr. Speaker, addressing the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
I would suggest that the Establishment Clause refers to funding such an institution directly with public money for the support and practice and implementation of those things. Now, as far as I know, there's no money that is going this way. At least that's what Jefferson thought the Establishment Clause and Madison thought the Establishment Clause was. What's very curious here is that opposition to this bill comes from an effort to want to excise out from the public square individuals who accept and practice only what marriage was understood for millennia, and to impose a penalty such as removal of a tax status, or saying that you're ineligible for a grant, or maybe even a school would be ineligible to satisfy the compulsory school attendance laws because they teach that only a man can marry a woman. Now, that's how far this is going to go, and it's very clear that some people who are opposed to this would like to push this to that degree. So, Mr. Speaker, if you want to protect what has been the common understanding for people as different as Napoleon or Socrates or anybody, marriage is between one man and one woman, and to say anything else and punish with the public power of either tax status or licensure or recognition or derecognition in any way, I think, is improper, but it's very telling as to how far some people want to go with, quote, the freedom to marry.
Shall the bill pass?